to have this role when I was a consultant at Jacobs, just going over the schedule at the end of every meeting, just making sure we're still on track, right?
There it is, that fancy plan.
I think you have this in your packet, whether it's copies made.
Thank you so much.
She always has this prepared for me, and I always seem to mess it up. Don't you?
I didn't have that floor plan.
So, we're taking a look at where we are based on where we said we were going to be. I think that there's a lot of things that have changed because we're doing exactly what we said we were going to do with regard to green light, which is talk to people and listen to people and react accordingly. This plan was set out at your April 8th meeting as a guide for us to discuss and make sure that we got to the place where we needed to be come September, October, November, December. And those are really the pieces that we said we cannot move that last piece. That last piece has to go to the county commission in that November, December time frame. So we need to be prepared and make sure that we're hitting all of the things that we need to hit, having the discussions that we need to have, and that our work plan is well thought through. That's not to say that things haven't changed, as I mentioned before. I think that this plan and the approach that we took was pretty ambitious. Just like everything else I think this committee has undertaken, all of the decision making has been a pretty ambitious process. I would say also that staff and all of the support that we've gotten through consultants have allowed us to complete these conversations on time or ahead of schedule. There are some things that have been dependent on each other, like the early discussions of our financial plan and the assumptions that we made with the alternatives analysis. But what's been really interesting to me and very helpful is that even though we continue to talk about what the assumptions are, there aren't a lot of questions about those assumptions. They seem to be in the right place. So there's only one thing that I could think of that we didn't do in the time that we said we were going to do, but I think it's ending up to be at the right time. And that is that detailed financial model. When we started talking about the detailed financial model, we wanted it to be a refinement of where we were and take into consideration all of the potential changes that might come up through our conversations here and at those green light committees. I would say that based on where we are with the community bus plan and the value of the input of that plan into the financial model in order to make it worthwhile to do. If we had done it in May and June, we'd be redoing it right now. So knowing that the bus plan is going to the PSTA board on Wednesday gives me great comfort to say that is, once that goes to the PSTA board, both in terms of the new revenue scenario, which you've all seen and has also been presented to the committees, as well as their no new revenue scenario, which is what happens if this doesn't work. So when they see that on Wednesday, and then have an opportunity to discuss it, their comments can then be put into what comes next in terms of the financial plan. And as Brad mentioned, we would move that. We are actually going to meet with the consultant in just a few days to talk about their scope. So they would do their work in August and September, and then we would fold this into where the Green Light Council is and the Green Light committees in October. So that was the only thing that I could think of that we haven't done, even in this short time frame. So I'm open to discussion about whether there's any questions or comments or.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want a clarification from the detailed financial model is, I think, the same thing, or is a good part of the same thing as the accountability plan and financial plan?
It's part
of it that makes the
yes.
accountability
It is
plan.
taking the AA, it's taking the bus plan, taking all of those financial pieces and putting it together. Then the accountability plan, which we're now calling the delivery plan.
Yes.
That financial plan gets rolled into the delivery plan along with all of those accountability pieces. So it all becomes the green light delivery.
So the delivery plan,
Which isn't even up here yet. It isn't even up here because
well,
he came to realize that that is the green light. That is the green light plan, it's the delivery.
okay, so it was called the accountability plan, and it was originally due in July.
So that's what you're seeing
Right.
here.
Okay, got it. So this group, is only the council going to see that, or is this ACPT group going to see
Going
that?
to see the financial model?
Yes, and the account and the delivery plan.
Yes, I think this group would continue to
Okay,
meet
just
and see
making
those
sure.
things, yes.
Just making sure I'm clear on that. And then you mentioned the no revenue scenario. I know the PSTA Planning Committee saw that last week. And I know that PSTA Board's going to see that this week. When will the other groups see that? Because I think that's really important. Is there a plan for the other groups, like ACPT, MPO, to see that?
The ACPT, you here, and the MPO and PSTA have all seen the new revenues, what we're calling the new revenue scenario, which is one part of the bus plan. If the sales tax were to pass, what would be the network of routes that we'd implement with the sales tax?
As well as
You've
the
seen that and approved, and the MPO has. I've seen, okay, yeah, I've seen that as well. The no new revenue, the Plan B, is for PSTA board eyes only, since the ACPT, well, at least we thought the ACPT is talking about the new initiative.
I understand. The only reason I thought you all may want to think about it is the discussion that we had. It wasn't just about how much less service there was with the no new revenue. I was pretty proud that they found ways of doing things with whatever revenue we might have, and they did consider some growth and all of that. But what they asked from the planning committee, and I'm assuming that you'll be asking from the PSTA board, is in what direction, if there was no new revenue, just the same property values, do we want to go towards a core type plan, meaning routes being in the core areas and building the frequency and getting more towards what the bus study is suggesting that we do, so that if you walk out on the street and catch a bus, or do we want to go towards coverage? Doesn't mean it's either or, but in which direction do we want to go? And I think that discussion is important for those other groups to see that we've had, that we are looking at those things, and that we are taking the bus study seriously. And I think it's important for the public to know we're having that conversation. So the more places, more transportation groups that can see that, can also see how much less there really is without new revenue. I mean, it makes a statement in several ways. So I know you're very, very busy, but
I think
it's a thought.
Sorry, I think our goal and intent, we've had this conversation with this committee before, was to keep this focused on a future vision of what we want Pinellas County to look like. The conversation about no new revenue is a plan B. It's what happens if this doesn't work. So it's not necessarily a fun conversation to have. I understand that we should tell people that there is a plan B, there is something else, but, you know, to go into a lot of great detail about that and talk about, you know, where cuts ought to be, I don't think that that's the conversation that I don't think it's the conversation that this group needs to have. Now, we can present, you know, in general what the information is, I think, but I think it's up to the PSTA board to make those decisions.
I just wanted to hear your, because I saw it wasn't on today's agenda, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
I think just from an educational purpose, it's good for us to know
Yeah.
in general.
Isn't that?
Because we'll be out speaking to people, so.
Yeah, maybe you don't take it to the MPO, but maybe the ACPT.
I think to the end, I think you need to take it to everybody, just from a pure knowledge standpoint.
And at some point,
Not
the
emphasizing
MPO
the
will have to
negatives,
consider it,
just
perhaps not
knowledge.
at the detailed level of how the service would be operated if there is no new revenue, but as we complete our long-range plan, which is due December of 2014, we'll have to have that other scenario because we're required to produce a cost-feasible plan. So at some point, it would come to the MPO, again, perhaps not getting into the detail of specific routes, that kind of thing, but you would get it in there.
And we didn't talk really about specific routes, in all honesty. It was more visionary discussion, but it was good.
We can certainly do that. We can do it right now if you like.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to see it. I can pull it up right now.
I don't want to interrupt, but my question is with the new revenue scenario that was presented at the end of last meeting. I didn't have a time to really digest that and figure out what was deleted from the prior map where there was no limitation of revenue. And I didn't have an opportunity to discuss it with our transportation people. After the meeting, I became aware that one of the routes taken out was the beach route coming out of St. Pete to the beaches, I think. So, or at least that's what Joe had indicated to me, because it's the color maps too, and that doesn't help me a whole lot either.
The Central Ave, BRT.
Yeah, so I'd like to understand with the new revenue scenario versus, I forget what you were calling the
Optimal.
optimal. I'd like to understand what's taken out of the optimal to this new revenue, almost a map showing what's been deleted, to have some discussion on, you know, which ones are positive. I mean, I know you can't keep it all in there, but I feel like I don't really understand those two differences.
That's good. That's a good.
Okay, Mayor, I can bring that to you. I would say that you're probably disappointed because the majority of the things that were taken out are frequency and span and service, not the coverage. A lot of the comments that we've received lately have been about adding coverage back. So the Central Avenue BRT is in there. There's a North County Regional Express service, you know, from East Lake to Oldsmar and the airport, and you know, so that all of that got back included. Trolley to Tyrone, things that we cut out for coverage are now back in. So I would say there's very few coverage items that have been removed from the optimal, which is an unconstrained scenario, to the new revenue. The differences will be in frequency and span of service. But I can bring those to
What we
you.
can do is provide a narrative inventory of the changes or the now updated plans, or as they're being presented next month, this month, to PSTA and to the ACPT. This is the difference. This is a narrative listing of the changes between the optimal, unconstrained, and the new revenue, and then also new revenue and property tax based.
Well, that's gonna be so significantly different that.
Yes, but I will say that, I don't know if the planning committee members who saw it last week, when you look at the map, it looks to the far distant eye, not too much different. I mean, there's a lot of lines still on the map. I mean, there's still a bus going up US 19. It just doesn't go on Sundays anymore, and it only goes every hour or something ridiculous. But you don't necessarily see that by looking at a map. You don't see the frequency changes, which drive a lot of the cost, right?
Okay,
By lines on a map, you need to have a narrative understanding.
that would be helpful.
Yeah. I think that is doable.
Thank you.
Okay. In fact, reading from the minutes, it says that Ms. Crozier preferred a phasing plan map. So maybe that would be helpful.
Remember? This is it, and then
Yep.
we show the next and the next, so if you should present it that way, it would even be easier to see what we already got and how we're gonna, where the enhancements are.
Well, and those maps, you know, we sort of have to get some decisions from the PSTA board on those things. We are presenting on Wednesday to the PSTA board. This is our system today. This is the system that we could have based on the same revenue miles that we have right now, only restructured and streamlined, you know, taking out those deviations, taking out duplicative routes, but preparing for that grid system. And that would be no change in the budget. Then when you get to 2017, if there is no new revenue, then you have to start making cuts. And that's where Commissioner Boljowski was talking about. You sort of have these bookends of where you could go with the cuts, looking out to another 10 years to 2023, 2024. What would that look like if you took a policy approach? Now, chances are that you're not going to get either one of those scenarios. It's going to be bits and pieces, but I don't know if that's a decision that you even want to make right now, even as the PSTA board. That's just to know what the options are come 2017, what your discussion will have to be.
I'll wait till Wednesday. We're meeting Wednesday, so I'll ask the PSTA.
Okay. You know you got a question? Any other comments? So you're gonna add a couple things for next month to show us.
Yeah.
That. There was a map attached here today, was that?
No?
Yeah, I got one of these real pretty new revenue scenario maps.
In your packet, there was a
Yes.
new revenue scenario map, and the reason was because we had those questions about
The North
coverage.
End.
These were, this was the latest and greatest based on the comments that we had received.
And if you get it in color, it makes a lot more sense. So most, yes, those that, whatever colors, tell them what colors you can't see, and then green
I can see them.
is green.
I can see the yellow ones.
You can see yellow.
That's the
And
wrong-
yellow, it's only yellow stars. Okay, wow. Okay, all right, all right. Anything else on the agenda that we need to cover? I don't see anything. Mr. Miller, anything else? Mr. T. Barta, anything this evening?
All good.
All good? How about Ms. Ward? And I'm sorry, I didn't write your name down, but sitting in for Mr. Crawford.
Linda Fisher.
Okay.
We are, as the PBC, we are working on preparing a companion piece to Greenlight Palace that will talk about our countywide plan updates and how that will be transit supportive. And we'll be coordinating closely with all the other agencies to make sure that has a consistent look and provides consistent information.
Okay, great, look forward to that. How about Ms. DOT? What you doing over there?
I just want to say, for everybody's notification, Canals MPO has been recertified, the secretary signed the certification, MPO staff did a fabulous job.
Hey.
So, you'll be getting that shortly.
Good.
It'll be presented at your September meeting by Federal Highway.
great. And the Howard Franklin's coming along on the schedule?
We scheduled 2 public hearings. As soon as we lock down the locations, I'll be sending out notice.
Okay, great, great. You're looking, you gotta, oh, okay. If we have nothing else, then everybody have a great month until next
Do
month.
you have
What's our
public
next meeting
comment?
date?
If I do, I don't, is there anybody out in the public that wants to give us some words of wisdom? I'm getting none. We are just too
When is our
hard.
next meeting?
It's August 12th, I believe. Yep, it is. I have it down for August 12th. That's a Monday, same time, same place. Is everybody okey-dokey? All right. Meeting adjourned. Uh-huh.